Christ referred to two prophets. The one was Isaiah and the other one was Daniel. This is a look into the book of Daniel. In Isaiah, there's a portion that we read about God's dealing with the nations. And he says the nations are as a drop in the bucket. But he sets kings up, he sets kings down, and he's actually in control of it. So while human beings think they are very puffed up, God is working his plan. And it was a redemption plan that he was setting up to totally remove the old and to bring the new. So we know that the four kingdoms, which was Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome, they were the four winds, the four horses of Revelation. They were the four forces. And you can find all this in all the prophetic books and in Revelation. And God was setting them up. Now, please, there is no gap between these kingdoms. The one took over from the other one. And we find that the church has taken prophecies and they applied them to our times. And what they did is then they sort of cut the feet off, and 2,000 years later they want to put it there, and they say that the tribulation is coming there. Whereas John in Revelation 1 says, I, John, your brother in tribulation and the kingdom, meaning this is the time it is. They sang in Revelation 15, it says they sang the song of Moses and the song of the Lamb. Now Moses' song was a song that told them how they were going to be burned and condemned and how they're not going to make it. So when they sing the song of Moses and the Lamb, it means time is at hand. Time is now here. The time is now up. Now this statue is taking us right to the time of Jesus' birth, Jesus' crucifixion, and the burning down of Jerusalem. The book of Revelation was written here. Everything happened during this time of Rome. But Rome is the feet that the head and the whole body is standing upon. So what we have in 10 and 11, we actually have the history of some of Medo-Persia and Greece and everything that's going to happen here. And 10 and 11 gives us the history that was directly going to follow. And it's also consisting of the 400 years of silence of the Bible. But this is all explained in Daniel 10 and 11. I mean, you can literally read the history books together with Daniel 10 and 11, because if you take the Medo-Persians and Greece, after Alexander died, at the age of 30, he conquered the whole world. And it's amazing. You know, he died in Babylon. He had flu and he was drunk as a skunk and he couldn't get out of it. And he died at the age of 30 after conquering the whole world. Now, that is really a picture of what flesh can do to you. He says, what does it help? You conquer the whole world and you lose your soul. And it's all pictures that we don't go that way, that we can follow what God has for us. Remember, Daniel was very upset when he realized that all these things have come because God is in it and he's working his plan. And he was really praying for his people. And every time the angel stood in front of him, he said, Daniel, I want you to know. But Daniel was broken with sorrow and fear and trembling, and he was really praying. Remember, Daniel was a man that was kept faithful through all these years. In Daniel 10, he says, this is all going to lead up to a time of tribulation that has never been. And this is also repeated in Daniel 12. Now, Daniel 12 is a very, very important chapter because Daniel 12 links us also directly to Revelation 4 and to Revelation 5. Because in Revelation 4 and 5, we see the heavens open and the one on the throne, and it describes everything. But then the one on the throne had a book written within and on the back. So the future is not seen, but it's sealed. It's sealed with 7 seals. Now, God sent them to Babylon for 70 years, 7 times 10. 7 is 3 plus 4. 7 times 10, a complete time, so that they can turn to God. They didn't. Then God gave them 70 times 7 years. In other words, that's 490 years to repent, but they didn't. Actually, when the Messiah came, they came to him and said, Lord, how shall we forgive? 7 times a day. Like, shall we be like God? He says, you don't know what God is. You don't know what God has done for you. 70 times 7. And there is no understanding in the natural of what God really does for us and how he really loves us. If he didn't love you, you would not be alive now. If his grace was not on this earth, if there was not a new way of life, a new way of doing things, you would be dead. Because in the old, they were killed just for lying, for stealing, for anything. They were killed. Jesus brought grace in. And in Revelation, he says he hates the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. And that is when we take the grace that God has given us and we abuse it to even go on sinning. We can't do that. God hates it. And we will not get away with that anyway. At the end, we will be judged. He says everything we do on earth, we will take in consideration and we will be judged by it. It's not that we're going to stand before the judgment seat of God. No, we're going to stand before the mercy seat of God, because Jesus took the judgment seat of God. But the mercy seat is, I've given you mercy and you didn't take it. Ouch. He says, this is the judgment, that light has come in, but people choose darkness. So you have an opportunity to live your life. Live it, man. God has a plan and a purpose for your life, even now. In the Spirit, there's no time. In the Spirit, there's no place. In the Spirit, there is no age. There is no qualifications. If you dare to stand up, you can walk into your everlasting purposes and plans right here, right now. Do you need to leave your job? No. Daniel was in that situation. And he didn't leave his job. He stayed at his job. We have to learn from the Bible. So now in Daniel 12, Daniel speaks about, at the time of the end, the warring angel, Michael, will come and he will make war. And like, what? We see this war in Revelation 12. He made war and Satan was cast out of heaven. Now, this was the work of Michael. And it even happened when the child was born. Come on, go read your Bible. It's in Revelation 12. And the battle started. Now, Satan tried to kill this baby, but he couldn't. And after the temptation, he had to leave Christ. And Christ had the keys of death and hell. And no, he could not be killed till he gave up the ghost. But Daniel was seeing all these things and he was like, the fear of God came upon him. And then the angel said to him, Daniel, go sleep. Go sleep with your fathers. You will rest, and at the end you will stand in your allotted place. This is so amazing. Christ's death is the end of death as the end. And there's these few people that really stepped into it. But after Christ, we know that if you die, you sleep. And you will be raised again. And that's why Paul says, well, whether I live or die, I belong to God. He says, Timothy, fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on life. And I think there are too many people that are losing their life because they're fighting a fight for life. They want to be something. They want to do it. They want to become. But if you fight for faith, faith takes you that you can lay hold on life. And I really believe that there's a generation that's going to just walk into it right here on the earth. But we have to not fight for life, because he says, if you try to win your life, you're going to lose your life. If you lose your life for my sake, you will gain it. Wow. The spirit realm works right the opposite of what the flesh realm works. And it's like stepping into a higher purpose that God has for you. But he said to Daniel in Daniel 12, he said, Daniel, seal up all the prophecies, seal it up. Because at the time of the end, people will run around and they will try to find out. And it was so amazing. He sealed it up with 7 seals. It was written within and on the back. And at the time of the end, when all the disciples have died, only John was remained on the Isle of Patmos. And God gave him a vision. And in heaven, everything was opened. And on the throne sat someone with a book, sealed with 7 seals, written within and on the back. And the whole of heaven was crying and saying, who is able to open this book? And then a voice said, stop crying, guys. The Lion out of the tribe of Judah was found worthy. And as the Lion took the book, it was a lamb. Now we know the lamb is the one that is crucified. And the minute the lamb was slain, the seals were broken. And the first 4 seals is 4 horses, which the prophets also described as 4 wings. Now remember, these things were sealed and no one could see it. And all of a sudden, when the seals were broken, we could see the 4 horses. Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. They were the 4 wings that came, that worked God's plan to the ultimate crucifixion of his son, bringing in the new, removing the old. The minute the lamb was slain, the devil thought he had now killed God. But then the Lion out of the tribe of Judah roared, because Satan was totally deceived. He thought he had killed the lamb, and it was all the time the Lion, because God's strength is in meekness. Winning isn't losing. Sometimes we've got to lose the fights to win the battle. If you are stuck in the natural, you have to fight for what's right. If you're in the spirit, you fight for faith, and you are always right. But you have to see it. This is why Paul, when he was in prison, he wrote and he said, I pray that the eyes of your understanding might be opened. And what happened is when the seals were opened, that terrible tribulation that was described in Daniel 10, 11, 12, he says, it's a time of distress that has never been and never will be on the earth. Now, please, we look at, if we look at the Holocaust and what happened, the wars in Africa, it's terrible. But in the spirit realm, this was a battle for the spirit realm and the nations of the earth. Now Satan is trying to deceive the nations, and he's trying to deceive us. But he has no power. And only if Christians can stand up and know what has been done on the cross is everlasting. He is forever. He has forever set the pace. God has been working right from the beginning, and his plans will be fulfilled, because he said in Hebrews 13, he will never leave you. He will never, ever forsake you and leave you, because his spirit has now found a resting place right on this earth, and he will never leave us and never forsake us. Revelation is one glorious, awesome book of victory for Christians, and we must not use it to put fear into people. Not go for the deception of the devil, but go into the victory of Christ and get the kingdom right here on earth.